So today we'll be working on personal finance. In this chapter, what I intend to teach you is what all of the different types of investments and savings plans are in the banking world and other places where we end up having costs at the bank, things such as the fixed cost or variable cost. We may also talk about depreciation and growth rate, okay? Some of the things that we will focus on are things called an RRSP, which is a registered retirement savings plan. And if there's time, we might talk about or a tax-free savings account, also known as a TFSA. We also have this thing called a registered education savings plan that we might take a look at. And we also may take a look at a thing called mutual funds. Now, today, what we're going to focus on is going to be savings alternatives. Now, one of the things that we have to always take care of when we have bank accounts are fees. And the first problem that we talk about here is the actual number of fees, the actual fees that we actually pay for the use of our different bank accounts. When you go to a bank, for example, you go and open a checking account or a savings account, right? Now, with each one of those savings accounts or checkings accounts, there are different kinds of fees that you have to pay to the bank in order to use said checking account. Now, there are many different types of checkings accounts. So for this first bank that we have here, the bank offers two checking accounts. Here's option A. You've got $9.95 for up to 15 transactions, right? And then 15 transactions per month plus 75 cents for every transaction above 15. Okay. And then for option B, imagine it's $3.95 just to open the account there and have it there every month. But then you have up to 10 transactions and then you get charged $1.50 for every additional transaction above 10. Now, let's go and determine what the fees are for the transactions for the month of June. All right, suppose that there were 0 transactions. Let's see what we would have for option A. In this case, for option A, if we start out, we always have to pay $9.95 to start out. And since we have 0 transactions, that is the total amount of money that we're going to pay for option A. For option B, it costs $3.95. And remember, it's $3.95 because we haven't done any transactions over that month. Now let's imagine that we have 18 possible transactions in the month. Let's see what happens when we have option A. For option A, it says we have 15 transactions free, and then it's 75 cents for any additional transactions above 15. So let's go and come up with an equation for that, shall we? So our equation has to start with $9.95. Now, remember that we got 15 free transactions and then 75 cents for every additional transaction. So now we have a total of 18. So we're actually going to have to add 3 more transactions to total up to 18 and then multiply by 0.75. Punch that in your calculator and you're going to get a total of $12.20 for option A. Now let's go and do the same for option B. So pause the video and try to calculate how much you'd owe for option B if there were 18 transactions. All right, now for option B, we're going to have to start with $3.95, but the first 10 transactions every month is free. But there are a total of 18, so that leaves us $8. So 8 times $1.50. So now we just punch that into our calculator and we end up with $15.95. Now, in order to be able to do the next problem, we're going to have to actually take a little bit of time and learn about a thing called a TVM calculator. And we will learn about that after we do the first part of our problem that comes up next as a simple compound interest problem. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to find out how much interest this guy called Ferd has if he goes and puts $500 in a checking account and the account pays 0.25% per year compounded daily. So just remember that when we're talking about compounding daily, there are 365 days. Okay? Now, you and I love money, so we're going to go and come up with the most accurate calculation for the compound interest, the future value, how much money. So for this one, it says, how much interest will Ferd earn in the months of August and September? Okay, so remember, August has 31 days and September has 30 days. So we know that we have to use compound interest. So remember, we have to use this equation. A is equal to P1 plus I raised to the n. Now, in order to get the perfect answer, what we're going to do is instead of dividing out our I value, as you'll see, we'll actually have to use the calculator to do all the calculations for us. So in this case, we have our basic equation. A is equal to P1 plus I raised to the n, because we're looking for the future value, the amount of money at the end of September. So we'll start with our A, P, I, and n. Now, I is going to be, well, remember, it's 0.25%, right? So 0.25% is actually 0.0025. How do I get that? You just take 0.25 and divide by 100 to get your answer of 0.0025. That's how we get that. So if you ever having difficulty figuring out what the decimal is going to be, just do that. So now, because we are compounding daily, we're going to divide this by 365. Now, the best part about our n value here is that we have our n value. Our n value is 31 plus 30, which is equal to 61 total days of compounding. Now, it says Ferd has a checking account, and in that checking account, he has $500. So we're going to start off with $500 at the beginning of August, and we're going to keep it in there until the end of September. Now, what we have to do in order to get the exact amount, to get exactly what we're owed, is we just have to substitute directly in. So we end up with A is equal to 500. And you'll notice that I didn't go and convert this into a decimal. Okay? If I convert this into a decimal, I'll have a rounding error. So let's not do that. So we're going to write 1 plus 0.0025, all divided by 365 raised to the 61. So on your calculator, you're going to put 500 times bracket 1 plus 0.0025 and then divided by 365. So if you want, you would actually have it look like this on your calculator. And you'd have it looking like this on your calculator, and then punch it in, and you'll get the exact value of 500.21. So now, if I want the interest is just A minus P. And in this case, it's going to be 521 minus 21, blah, 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 which is 0.21. So that is the total interest that we made in the month of August and September. So if I ever ask you for that, you take the amount minus the interest. Now, let's go and talk and work on this next problem. How much will he earn in 1 year? So imagine if I have 365 days in a year. So remember, we're going to start with A is equal to P1 plus I raised to the N. And then we start with A, P, I, and N, just like before. Okay? Now, the I still stays the same as 0.0025 divided by 365. N, because it's compounded daily, is just the number of days that occur. And in this case, it's going to be 365 days for exactly 1 year. Now, the p-value is still 500. So we're just going to substitute directly in. And your final answer, once you substitute into your calculator, you're going to get $501.25 over 1 year. Now, if I asked you what the interest was earned, you'd go I is equal to A minus P, which is just 501.25 minus 500, which is going to be a total of $1.25 as our interest. And we're done. Now, let's talk about checking this problem using the TVM calculator. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking a look at this website. I will provide this link on the main web page for the course for this lesson. So this is going to be under 9.1, and any lesson that uses a TVM solver to help us find the solution to a problem. So now let's go and take a look at the TVM solver by actually taking this link and copying it into our Google Chrome. So now when you copy it into Google Chrome, you're going to get to this page, Financial Calculators, okay? Now, you'll notice you're going to have to make sure that the mode is set to end, right? And what we need, this TVM calculator literally does all of this information right here. It goes and takes our A, our P, and our compounding periods N, and our interest rate. Now, for this problem here, okay, all we really have to do is say what our annual interest rate is, okay? So when we're looking at question A here, it says how much interest will he earn in a month from October to September. Now, it says we have 0.25% interest per year. Now, here's how we do this. If you take a look at our present value, we put $500 for our present value because that's what we own. Now, the reason why it is positive is because we own that money, okay? That is money that we keep. Any money that we give away, we have to say it's a negative number, right? So let's go and do the next thing here. So now, for our future value, we don't know. We don't know what the payments are. We do know what the annual interest rate is. Now the annual interest rate we said was 0.25%. So we're going to write 0.25. And instead of saying that this is compounding monthly, we're going to compound this daily and the number of compounding periods for part A is 31 plus 30, which is 61 days. Now, we have all the information that we need. The computer will go and calculate this part here for our I value, punch it into the equation. It'll also put in the 500 and the exponent of 61. And we should get, we should figure out what our future value is. Now, to calculate the future value, all you have to do on this thing is to click the button called future value. And there it is. So in this case, the bank has to give you $500.21. Isn't that what we expected? Okay, so now let's go and do it for B. So we are good. All right, so now let's do this again for B. So for the number of compounding periods for B is 365 because we're going to spend an entire year doing that compounding. So we're going to put 365 this time. And now we're going to click the future value again, and we'll check to see if we get the right answer. 501.25. Boom. Perfect answers. And that's how we use our TVM calculator. We can also use it to calculate payments if we ever wanted to. Okay? You could actually, that's what this PMT thing is. That's for calculating mortgages. As long as you know what the starting value is, the annual interest rates, and the compounding periods, and you're good. Okay, so there we go. That's it. Let's move on to the next question of the day. Now, this next problem we're going to take a look at is how we go about interpreting everyday checkings accounts and everyday plus checking accounts for a sample bank. Okay, so in a typical month, Rogelio uses his debit card about 4 times a week. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to underline that 4 times a week. So now what we're doing in this problem is we're trying to figure out which account would be best for us in the long run for banking, okay? Because you kind of want to always save money, don't you? Now, in this case, we have Rogelio, who uses his debit account about 4 times per week for purchases to withdraw cash from his checking account, okay? And he tends to use what we call the ABM. And you know that with the ABM, most banks tend to charge some form of money for those ABMs. Okay? Now, here's what we need to figure out. Okay? We know that for every month, Rogelio has 3 bills, which are automatically deducted, okay, from his bank account. And they are his car payment, his car insurance, and his phone bill, okay? And we know from earlier that he takes 4 times, he spends money from his bank account 4 times a week, and when he uses his debit card, okay? So we need to figure out things like the number of transactions that he has. So this problem says here, we need to find the total of transactions per month that he has. So in order to figure that out, this is what we'll do. We know that this problem has 4 weeks in the month of January, right? But if you take a look at January, there are actually 30 days in January, right? So wait a second. No. I think what it is, it's 4 times 4 because there's 4 weeks in January. All right. And then he has to also pay his payments that are automatically deducted. And we'll assume that he's got 2 extra payments that he can pull from his debit card at any time. So that's 4 times 4 plus 2 plus the 3 extra payments at the end, which gives us a total of 21 transactions that he does every month. Now, this problem here says we want to calculate the cost per transaction for each option, okay? So we're going to have to figure out something like this. We got like the everyday checking account, right? So we're going to have to take a look at the overview for the everyday checking account. All right, so for the everyday checking account, it's $3.90 per day, per month, right? And that's for 12 transactions. So if we go and use the everyday account, the number of transactions, let's call that T, is equal to 21 minus 12, which means that we have a total of 9 transactions that we have to pay for. And it said that the original cost per month was $3.90 for this specific everyday checking account. So the cost is equal to $3.90 and then plus, 9, and then it's $1 for every transaction, which gives us a total of $12.90. And that's the cost of actually using something like that for our banking. Okay, so the one thing in order to kind of compare the different checking accounts, we have to come up with some sort of rate. So for us, our rate is going to equal the cost, which is $12.90, and we're going to divide that by 21 uses. Okay, and that will tell us how much we pay per use. In this case, you're going to end up with 0.61 cents, so 61 cents per use for this specific account. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to go and take a look at, instead of the everyday checking account, we want to take a look at the plus checking account. Let's see if we have any space to work on that. So with the plus checking account, with the everyday plus checking account, you have a total number of transactions, which is 25. So the total number of transactions is 25. So we don't get paid. We don't have to pay for any of those transactions. So in this case, our transactions, our cost is just $9.95. Okay, so for this one, it says up to 25 transactions with $9.95. So we don't have to pay for any transactions. So that's $9.95 plus 0, which is just $9.95. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and compare the rate for this one, the rate per use. In this case, it's $9.95. And then we're going to divide that by 21 uses, which gives us this number, 0.47 cents per use. And in this case, we're going to choose the plus program, because it's cheaper per use. It's cheaper per use. And we're done. All right. So now let's go and take a look at part C here. It says, Rogelio went online to check his account and noticed that he'd been charged $3.90 and $19 for the previous month. Which one was he using? Which one of these was he using? So we got to look back. Oh my God, what a dummy. He actually used the everyday options. he used the everyday use. So that's the one he used. He used the everyday checking account. So he basically wasted his money. All right. So now let's go on to part D and E. It says here, how many transactions were made in Rogelio's account? Well, in order to figure that out, we have to realize that the original amount that we could use for the transactions, we get 12 free transactions, right? And then he got charged $19 for his fees. So he ended up with a total of 31 transactions. Not good. So now the last thing that we have to do is we have to say, what is the cost per transactions for the month, for that month? So here is the cost per transaction. Cost per use. Well, that was $3.90 plus $19. Then we're going to divide that by 31 uses, which gives us, well, $22.90 divided by 31, which gives us a final answer of $0.74 per use. Questions are posted online. Good luck. And these are your questions that you'll be doing. The questions will be posted online. Make sure you do at least up to question number 6. At least up to question number 6. If you feel comfortable with it, continue from 7 through 8, and then if you want, you can stop there.